Today I want us to look at the metaphysical cultic origins of the Word of Faith movement and then some of the standard doctrines that the prosperity preachers teach that deviate from historical Christianity. And in order to really understand the movement, it really helps to know something about the origins of the movement. So where did the Word of Faith movement, this health and wealth prosperity gospel, begin? It began with a man named Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. Quimby we could call the great-grandfather of the Word of Faith movement. Quimby was the father of New Thought, a metaphysical cult. And when I say metaphysical, that's a big word, but all it means is beyond the physical realm, beyond what we can see and touch here. So Quimby was the father of the metaphysical cult known as New Thought. New Thought essentially held that whatever you think about, you will attract to yourself. If you think positive thoughts, you will attract positive things to yourself. If you think negative thoughts, you will attract negative things to yourself. And it holds that sickness and disease is the result of negative thinking. So if you're sick, it's because you've been thinking negative thoughts and you have attracted these things to yourself. So he was the father of the metaphysical cult known as New Thought. He was a student of occultism, hypnosis, parapsychology. And his theoretical formulations served as the basis for what is today known as Christian Science. You've probably heard of Christian Science. Christian Science is very poorly named, by the way, because Christian Science is not Christian and it's not scientific. But Mary Baker Eddy claimed that she was physically healed by Phineas Quimby. She really wasn't, but she thought that she was, and she took his doctrines and developed them a bit further, and from that formed what is today known as Christian Science. And there are a lot of Christian Science overtones in the modern Word of Faith, health and wealth gospel, one of which is the denial of physical symptoms when it comes to sickness and disease. If you have a friend or a family member who is involved in this movement to one degree or another, you might notice that when they get sick, they deny that they're sick. Maybe they have a cold. Their eyes are watering, their nose is running, they're congested, they're sneezing, the whole 9 yards. You can tell that they're sick, but you ask them, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. They don't admit it. They don't want to confess that because they might confess it into existence. Well, this is Christian Science and New Thought. This health and wealth prosperity gospel is not Christian, dear friends. It is cultic theology that has been wrapped in some Christianese, wrapped in some Christian lingo to make it appear to be Christian, but it really is not. Essex W. Kenyon, we could call the grandfather of the Word Faith movement. Kenyon had very clear ties to the metaphysical cults, particularly the New Age and New Thought movements. Kenyon was right on a number of different doctrines, but he was wrong on a number of different doctrines as well. And just briefly, I won't go into all of this, but give you a little list. Kenyon held that God created not ex nihilo, as we say, not out of nothing, but rather God created by speaking faith-filled words. And his words were containers of a literal, tangible substance called faith. And so when God spoke, his words of faith created the universe, and everything is created, everything is made out of faith. The clothes you're wearing, it's made out of faith. The chair you're sitting in, it's made out of faith. And the prosperity preachers teach that we too can use our own words of faith. We can speak things into existence and create our own physical reality. And a couple of the other doctrines here. He taught that Jesus died not only a physical death, but died a spiritual death as well. We'll look at that in just a little bit. And he taught that health and wealth are obtainable by the believer's positive confession. So if you need money, you can speak it into existence. If you need healing, you speak it into existence. And this is one of the standard doctrines of the Word, Faith, Health, and Wealth movements. Kenneth Hagin is the father of the modern Word of Faith movement, and despite Kenneth Hagin's teaching that no Christian should die until he's at least 120 years old, you see that Kenneth Hagin didn't quite make it. He was about 85, a little bit short of his 86th birthday when he died. But Kenneth Hagin, like all of the prosperity preachers, claimed that much of what they taught people they received through direct divine revelation knowledge. In other words, they would say, well, I'm going to teach you these things, but if you can't find these doctrines in the Scriptures, it's okay, don't worry about it, because I have it from the highest authority. Jesus himself came and gave me these teachings. So if you can't find it in the Scripture, don't worry about it, it's okay. I got it from Jesus. Hagin claimed that Jesus physically appeared to him 8 different occasions throughout the course of his life, and on one of these occasions, Hagin claims that Jesus gave him these exact words. Kenneth Hagin claims that Jesus physically appeared to him and gave him these exact words. It's interesting, however, that Jesus apparently bears a striking resemblance to Essex W. Kenyon. If you can see, it's practically word for word identical. Hagin did not get this from Jesus. Hagin plagiarized Essex W. Kenyon, among other writers as well, plagiarized them extensively. So the prosperity preachers are very fond of claiming divine origin for what they teach, but as you can see, the origins are not nearly so supernatural. They just steal from other people. In fact, we just read that, did we not, in Jeremiah 23, how the false prophets steal one another's words. Same thing here.